Hey,
I've
Dad
always-
worked for Nestle. Dad worked for Nestle, mate. The free kick out today didn't really work too well.
This is potentially the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. And that's saying something because there's been some stupid stuff in the history of it.
For me, what was the most rewarding, just learning, taking stuff out of them, and also being given this platform to be able to stand up and represent people of my time.
The only way really to kick poverty in the butt at all is through education, and I probably didn't realise until I went there.
They should back you. It's water cooler weekly. I mean, it's a big deal.
All right, it's my pleasure now to welcome on former Victorian Bushranger, Adelaide striker, and South Australian Redback keeper batsman, Adam Crosthwaite. Crossy, how are you today, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Keeper, batter. It's good. Batter, keeper. Not sure.
I wasn't going to leave the batsman part out. I was like, it's very crucial that I didn't just say keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First class cricketer could have just been a keeper, but yeah, we'll stay with keeper bat.
Yeah, that's right. I guess we should throw it back all the way to the start. Like myself, you're a product of the Rosanna Cricket Club. Mm-hmm. Obviously, one of us has had a more successful career than the other.
Yeah, your numbers at Rosanna are probably better than mine.
I'm not so sure about that. But talk about getting into cricket growing up and what it was like for you playing junior cricket.
Yeah, look, it's I walked into Rosanna when we were probably 9 or 10, I think. I just went down with some schoolmates. It was Rosanna Golf Links primary school, and a couple of mates were going down, and at that stage, I think before it, my dad was still playing senior cricket at the Northern Socials Cricket Club.
Okay.
And they only had an under-16 team, so I found the year before I was playing under-16s, it was a bit...
They weren't that strong.
No, they weren't that strong. I had one team, and I think I was fielding fine leg to fine leg with them, so I think the keeper got injured, and I said, well, I'm bored out here.
I don't want to do fine leg to
keep
fine leg.
100%. I know I'm 9 years old, but I'll keep.
Yeah. I did that when I played Diamond Valley Rep.
Yeah.
I was not 9. I was 16.
Love it.
Yeah, I still loved it.
Yeah, well, that's how I put the gloves on, just with those guys, and then a couple of the boys from primary school were going down and went down to Rosanna and started playing there and loved it. Yeah, pretty much. We played 12s, 14s, 16s. I think we won every grand final, I believe, apart from bottom age 14s. It was the one that we lost. And still hurts me, but that was good. It was a great club, and it's awesome. Like, still being involved. Dad's been coaching the club up until he's just literally retired. They've given him life membership, and he's retired. Nice. So, but I actually went back and played some T20s this year for him, and I think the president's got me back again, and I think I might go around again and play some games next year. So.
Was it out of the love of the junior club, or was there a little truck that backed up?
No, there's definitely no truck. I think I owe my old man a lot, and Dad was coach of the club, and it's quite funny because they come to us and said, "Oh, we've got this and we got that." I said, "No." I said, if I took a cent from the Rosanna Cricket Club, my old man would knuckle me. So it was and it was great. It was really good to. I've travelled a lot with cricket, and it was nice to be back in Melbourne and nice to play a game. And I was nervous. First few games I played on synth though for a long time, and it was good. Yeah, got off the mark. It was nice.
Yeah, that's it. Any decent scores, or was it? A
couple of 40s. I think I might have got 50, maybe.
That's like a pass. You
100%.
You take that.
You're in a bit of from being a district cricketer going back to play for Rosanna. It's sort of hard because if you make a duck, you're no good. If you make 100, you're a bully. You got to sort of fit somewhere between. Like, you can't ruin the game. Yeah. You can't be a bit of a hero. So it's but no, the guys were great, and we've got some really good young kids down there, which was great. So it's nice to get back to the club. But yeah, I was. Like, if I look back on the season, I was probably the most nervous walking out to bat for Rosanna than I was playing for St Kilda.
You make it dark and everyone on the ground's like, this guy plays district months.
This guy is no good.
This guy's shit. That'd be something I would say, like 100%.
Mate, there was a few guys. Some guy at Point for Preston Baseballers was giving it to me. So. Yeah. Preston Baseball Cricket Club or something. It was good. It was good fun. Good fun. Yeah. Good to get back.
Yeah, that's it. Your brother James is also an incredible cricketer. How heated were those backyard games growing up?
Yeah, they were good. Yeah, James is a really good cricketer. He it was interesting. Backyard cricket was interesting because neither of us could bowl. We were both wicket keepers and batters. So, we'd play test matches, 1 wicket per innings, and it'd be 500 or 600 each, sort of thing. Like, we just couldn't get it out. Like, you couldn't get them out.
Absolute roads.
Yeah, like road, like tape tennis ball, but usually we weren't good enough to swing it
Wasn't
properly.
moving much,
100%. So, it's quite funny though the way that we had the backyard set up. We had a brick wall on the sort of on your cut shot, but you could score from a pull shot and a straight drive. And it's really funny that I've spoken about this a few times, that the way that your backyard set up really dictates the way that you play proper cricket. James and I would play, and all we'd do, the only way you could score was a bit short, whack a pull shot.
Yeah.
Had to hit it down, you couldn't hit it up, 6 is out. Yeah. But and then hit it straight. But we had like a window. So if you bowled short and wide to the offside and you cut, you got no runs.
So you're saying you got no cut shot?
I've got no cut shot. And literally 25 years later, I've still got no cut shot.
Still trying to learn.
100%. I dink it down to third man. I don't cut it anymore. But I've never been able to cut.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like my game of cricket, I hardly hit the ball through the offside. I don't make many runs through the offside.
Yeah.
Just because I don't cover drive well and I don't cut well. And a lot of that's to do with...
Comes down to your childhood.
I reckon.
Yeah.
James whacks his cut shot a bit better than I, but at the same time, we both compulsive pull shot and we hit hard straight. Yeah, well, the big brick wall on the offside was reason why we can't play through the offside. So, interesting. But James was good. James I'm a couple of years older than James, so fair to say if I nicked one and didn't...
You got some beat downs.
Yeah,
I'm the oldest, so I know how it goes.
Yeah. I nicked a few and didn't walk, sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, no Adam Gilchrist.
Yeah, he went crying to mum.
Yeah. We have to mention your sister, Stacey. Now, she obviously grew up, saw you, James, two incredible cricketers, but she obviously wanted to go and land herself an incredible cricketer, and her husband, her much worse half, Brent. I'm not sure if you realise this, but he was once self-proclaimed the most dangerous man in the Diamond Valley. So I'll set the scene for you.
There's a lot of dangerous men in the Diamond Valley, so for him to say that, it's really interesting, right?
It is, and I can't, he'll say this is a lie, but it's not. I remember it was a cold Saturday morning, and he's come in off the long run, and he's had one straight through me, straight past me nose, and he sort of just walked up to me, and he just goes, "Welcome to the Wild West, baby. I'm the most dangerous man in the Diamond Valley," and then walked off, and I reckon that's where my career ended. Like, there was no coming back.
Just fear. Yeah. Fear from the most dangerous man in the Diamond Valley.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. How often does he talk about himself and how accomplished he is in the Diamond
Christmas
Valley?
Day is really hard. Like James is talking about sort of his cricket, and then we're sort of chatting about the test match coming up, but then it you're right, it gets hijacked by how fast Brent was, and if his back stayed together, he would have played for Victoria and probably Australia. What could have been? Yeah, we often don't get around to our games because we're just chatting about yesteryear.
Yeah. He'd probably consider himself a Alex Keith before Alex Keith.
Yeah, a couple of his mates have said that as well. I seem to agree.
Yeah. No, it's a shame that he, never got the real opportunity, but he's doing well now.
I heard it was like Peter Siddle or Brent Redmond. I was pretty sure that was the way it was progression.
Yeah, and unfortunately, just
the world didn't get to see it.
No, I mean, some people got to see it, and they've lived to tell the tale barely, but
burned in your mind. Yeah,
it doesn't leave. I still have PTSD from it.
Love it.
No, he's a great man.
His kid's going to be a good player, though. Yeah. He's just had a baby, so little Avery, he's going to be a good player. Yeah. We'll make sure of that.
Yeah. I do wonder what sport he will find. I have a feeling he might be...
When the Tigers won the AFL Grand Final the other year, I had a bet with Brent, and I said, mate, I didn't think they were any chance of winning it, their first one. And I said to him, all right, he's whinging about his kid's going to... Because we're big Carlton supporters, and Stacey's a Carlton supporter.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It hurts, but... he was like, look, if I win, if the Tigers can get up and win, I don't want any fight over who the kid's barracking for. I was like, no worries, it won't happen. Yeah. And then they've won, what?
They've won 3.
Three out of last 4. Yeah. Unbelievable. But
I think
they're mad, stupid mad Richmond, but
Yeah.
Better than being a Carlton supporter, I reckon.
Yeah, that's just stupid. Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
Ruins my weekends. Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. At what age did you sort of notice, you started to really break away from, say, the other kids you were playing in HCCA, the kids like myself, even though I made a rep team, which I spoke about, but, it's obviously a completely different level for, someone like yourself.
Yeah, I think probably sort of under 14s, under 16s, bottom age was sort of when, I think like all kids growing up, I was playing basketball, playing footy, playing cricket, and it was just playing sport. And I think I wasn't 6'5", so I didn't think I was going to be a really good basketballer. So as much as that's probably my main love,
Shane Heal.
Yeah, I just wasn't going to make it to the NBA. So that sort of made that decision easier. I was in the sort of Northern Knights, sort of the under 16 squads and whatever with that, and in the Victorian junior squads with cricket. And it was probably the footy that started pushing really hard at 15, 16, and they were angling to, hey, you got to make a decision.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to be football or are you going to be a cricketer?
Which is usually what happens around that age, yeah.
And it was interesting, and I think because as a wicket keeper, I was probably a bit more specialised than the most. I think through my junior cricket into like my wicket keeping was getting me picked before my batting. My batting probably didn't come good until the early mid-20s.
Yeah.
But I was always sort of being picked as a keeper and probably earmarked. Darren Berry was the Victorian keeper and entrenched, and Peter Roach was under him for so long. And it was like, who's going to be the next? Who's going to be the next? And it was probably being the timing of that sort of all made sense for me, and I was sort of being pushed in that direction. And I think because the footy went so hard at saying, no, you can't miss training to go to cricket. Yeah. It made my decision a bit easier. It was like, you know what? Like, cricket would be more accommodating.
Do you love training?
Look, I do. I think it's...
There are people who absolutely love training.
Yeah, I don't absolutely love it, but I've put up with it.
Especially at that age as well with the footy stuff. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, and I think it was always, hey, you've got to commit 3 nights a week to this. And it was like, well, hang on, I'm playing championship basketball for Eltham. I'm in the under-17 Victorian squad for cricket. Yeah. I'm also in the Knights. It's like that they weren't really accommodating to, hey, I'm 15. I haven't made... I am? Yeah, that didn't come out. I was no one at that stage. But it was probably more they got pushy, and I just ended up in cricket and loved it. And then I got picked in the Victorian under-17 team as a bottom age 17, so a 16-year-old, and actually then got picked in the under-19 Victorian side as an under-17. So, and did well at those tournaments and was sort of fast-tracked from there, and it was sort of 16, 17. I was 17 playing the Aussie under-19s, and once you sort of hit that Aussie 19s side, they then slot you into the state squad. And so I was doing my VCE at Montmorency High, but coming back from an under-19 World Cup, missed the first month of school. Which was great. Yeah. I don't think I really caught up in all of Year 12 because they then was in the state squad through all of Year 12, so it was sort of a tough sort of transition that you weren't out of school, but you were still in there sort of fighting. And cricket back then especially was still a bit... We didn't know where the rookies sat. Like, the rookies we were on not much money, but you didn't need money when you're living at home and going to school. Yeah. But it was just interesting on how that transition worked into the state squad. So it was, I sort of went from juniors to senior, and I was put in the state squad before I was any good. Yeah. I was put in the Victorian team before I was any good. So it's interesting, and it's probably it's the same thing that happens now. Like, kids get put into the state team or...
The sink or swim kind of thing.
Because they think that it's the right thing for their progression, but I'm really against it. I think you really should go through the steps and go through Premier Cricket and earn your stripes that way, rather than being thrown in the deep end, and because I think it actually hurts you more than it helps you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't want to brush over the Australian Under-19 World Cup because there's some pretty big names in that, like...
There's a few.
Hashim Amla, I believe.
Yeah, good.
Up to the
So you're talking
stumps.
about- oh, yeah.
Up to the stumps, letting him know.
Yeah, you could tell Hashim was going to be a good player. I think Graham Smith looked like an average cricketer. I think he looked like an average cricketer for his whole career. He was very good, and the South African team had a few. They had Big Reddy, and they had a couple of kids who were fast, ended up playing Test cricket.
Yeah.
We knocked them over in the final, which was awesome. But yeah, even our team, like you look at the Australian under-19 teams these days, like you usually get 2 or 3, 4 that go on and play like a proper state cricket or for Australia. Whereas I think it was 2002, the World Cup. The first I was lucky enough to play 2 World Cups in under-19s, but the first one we had. Yeah, sort of Sean Marsh at 3, Cameron White at 4, George Bailey at 5.
That works.
Mark Cosgrove at 6, and then I slid in there at
Crosthwaite
number 7.
7.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't quite kick on like those blokes, but it's we had a.
As long as they laid the platform.
That's it. We but no, it was it was a lot of fun. Those trips, and you got to travel. We travelled with that was in New Zealand. That one, but then the one 2 years later, Tim Payne was the captain.
Yeah.
I had the gloves. Payne had the
that hurts.
captain and bowl.
Yeah, sorry, Tim.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Bad luck.
100%. They gave him the captaincy because they felt bad for him. I think that started his Test captaincy ambitions. But we went to Bangladesh. That one.
Okay, what was that like?
It was amazing. Really, it was pretty cool. It was it was different. Like 18-year-old going. We went to India first as the warm up, and Callum Ferguson did his knee for the first time. That was in the pre-game in India before the World Cup. So we got to Bangladesh, and all the boys got sick. We all got food poisoning and Delhi belly, and a couple of boys lost some like kilos, like
Serious
elite athletes at sort of 17, 18 that just lost 5 or 6 kilos because India just got them. We got to Bangladesh. We weren't really in a great frame of mind. We belted Nepal, I think, in the first game.
Big rivals.
Big rivals, the Nepalese. They were about 3 foot tall, I think. They were just trying to get a free trip, I think. It was one of those ones. But the second game, because we bowled Nepal out for like 25 or something, and then knocked them over in 4 or 5 overs. So we're in the World Cup. We're like, we want to bat. And in Bangladesh, in the morning, it's really misty and dewy. Like it can be, the ball nips around a lot at the start. So the second game was against Zimbabwe, and we were like, and I remember saying to Tim, I said, mate, you got to bowl. Like, he said, nah, we didn't bat the first game, and we were so wanted to get into the tournament and have a hit. We won the toss and batted, and Zimbabwe bowled us out for 50. Yeah. It was horrendous, and then they knocked us over, and then really we couldn't get back into the tournament. Yeah. It was such a quick tournament that we beat Sri Lanka in the last game, but just missed on percentage or something stupid, and good times. But then we played in the repechage final. We played Bangladesh at Bangladesh in Dhaka in front of 60,000 people, because that was when Bangladesh in 2004. Bangladesh really just starting to come onto the scene. Yeah. We played in front of 60,000 as an 18-year-old kid in Bangladesh. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Yeah. I think Adam Zampa played in that, almost got us over the line. And, but, there was a few crazy times at the back end of that game, essentially. Like, we were told to stay in the room if we won, because they were going to, it was a bit of a scary moment. So it was an ICC event, the first ICC event I think that Bangladesh ever held, so they were all very nervous about it. So, but we got out alive, and it was, it was interesting. So been back Bangladesh one more time, and India a couple of times, so it's an interesting place to play cricket. Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't want to get off just Tim Payne, because I think this is an interesting question. How difficult is it to keep and captain? Yeah. Look, it's tough. Like what Tim Payne's doing for Australian cricket is unbelievable, and it's the fact that he's wicket keeping in Test cricket. Like he's a beautiful wicket keeper. He's a natural keeper. He always has been. Yeah. Since he was 14 years old, he's always been a beautiful looking keeper. But in 4-day, 5-day cricket, to concentrate on your keeping and on your fitness the way that you have to make sure that you get through to day 5.
Seems like a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's an incredible amount. But he, in fairness, he's been training for this, and he's been training for what he's doing right now since he was 15. We all got in those academy squads and the Cricket Academy at sort of 17, 18, junior stuff, and this is what you're built for. So he's been custom built for it, but what he's doing is unbelievable. His cricket brain, it comes easy to him because I think he's always been a leader. He's always been a cricket head, a bit of a cricket nuffy.
Yeah.
But he thinks about the game. He knows the game well inside out, and he's got supreme confidence. Like he really does. But what he's doing, and Tim's a mate of mine and has been since we were 16. But what he's doing with Australian cricket now is incredible. He really doesn't get the accolades he deserves because everyone's coming in and speaking to him about he dropped this, he put that chance down. It's like the wicket keepers before him were putting down a lot. We
were spoiled, and I feel like that's the issue is people my age.
Yeah.
So in that 30, we grew up in obviously the golden era where nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
And he still averages over 30 at Test cricket, which I believe is actually the highest.
Yeah. If you take Gilly out of it.
I'm pretty sure it's the highest.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the thing. It's just we were just spoiled with so many of these great cricketers that averaging over 30 is seen as mediocrity almost.
I think Ian Healy was such a good wicketkeeper and he was a decent batter. He sort of averaged close to that 30 mark as well, but Gilchrist just changed it, and since Gilchrist rocked in, he changed world cricket. That everyone needed the keeper needed to bat in the top 6, and but at the same time, since Gilly, Haddon was the same. Haddon was an extremely good batter, and an amazing wicketkeeper. Look, I personally don't think Matthew Wade was a great wicketkeeper, but he's shown what he does with the bat. But what Tim's been doing and what he's done later in his career, especially after, you got to remember, Painey shattered his finger in his mid-20s that put him out of cricket for 3 or 4 years, really. But for him to stick around in the system and to do well and to
make it, it's weird. It's sort of him and I feel like Callum Ferguson, very similar. Both were sort of earmarked at such a young age. Yep. To come in, injuries completely derailed them. I feel bad for Callum Ferguson because such an incredible talent to sort of with what he's gone through and still making runs in the BBL.
Yeah,
but Tim Payne's come in, played all this Test cricket at arguably I'm not going to say the worst part of his career, but early days. Yeah, it could have been anything really.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think Tim's playing his best cricket that he ever has. And I think cricketers do that, and this is probably coming back to my point before when we try to push these cricketers in when they're so young. They don't need to be 18 or 21 when they start because their best cricket is at the back end. You look at someone like a Peter Siddle. Peter Siddle's bowling as fast and as good as he's ever bowled, and he's 35.
Yeah, those shades are questionable though.
Yeah, he shades and his teeth that he's had done for the last however long, growing up, his teeth didn't look like that, but he's playing the best cricket of his life. You're right. Callum Ferguson is a mate. I'm a massive fan of Sean Marsh. And Sean Marsh is going back and he's dominating. It's like, hey, my opinion is not everyone needs to play 100 Test matches. I think we try and push everybody to play 100 Tests. It's like, well, we saw with some guys like Chris Rogers who played 30 games.
Mike Hussey,
100%.
Mike Hussey obviously played a lot more, but came in at a late stage.
Yeah. And they've been our best players. Like someone like Michael Klinger should have played more for Australia.
100%,
Brad Hodge. And I know we're very Victorian centric here because these are the guys that I guess mentored me, and these are my favourite players. And but those type of guys, I think we've got one happening at the moment with Will Bukowski. I really hope that they don't. Yeah. I hope they don't burn Will. I hope they let Will get his feet, find his range, and he could be a 100 Test player from 25 to 35. He really could. But I just think at the moment we're in a bit of a rush because as I said, I talk fondly of Payne and Ferguson and Siddle and Marsh. They're the guys I came through with and grew up with, and they've done it. They've done it for a long time. Like, we laugh about it, the fact that Callum Ferguson is up there with Greg Blewett and Darren Lehman for what he's done for South Australian cricket, and the fact that Tim Payne is an Australian captain. I laugh that I know some stories that I won't be able to say on this.
That's okay.
On this podcast about Tim Payne, and we laugh because he's just one of the boys.
Yeah.
But now he's the Australian Test captain, and it's quite funny when you go through a career with these guys and they turn around and they're the captain of Australia.
Yeah, it's like, gives you a call up. He's like, hey, I'm actually going to captain Australia now.
100%.
Remember that time when I got the gloves over you?
Yeah, I caught up with him at Lords before the Test match in the last Ashes series. It was I was just in London with my family actually, and I caught up with him and was just catching up, and he was
sort
just
of surreal, isn't it?
He was just preparing for a game of cricket like we always do, having a chat. And it's like he's actually preparing to play. The first Test in Ashes Test match as captain at Lords. It was quite bizarre, but he's. I'm super proud of what he's done for Australian cricket and what he's doing, and it's pretty cool. Like he's, and I hope he goes for as long as he can, because he's definitely still the best wicketkeeper in the country, and his batting is tough. He's a tough batter. He's there when you need him. Like, sure, I think we all want him to get a couple of Test hundreds. I think he needs that second innings easy 100 in a smash up game that you can just get it off your back. But he's doing a great job.
No, absolutely. Let's shift the focus to you, because obviously we don't want to talk about these blokes. These blokes get spoken about enough.
They do.
You spent 5 to 6 seasons with Victoria.
Yep.
I know we just touched on Victorian bias, but we're from Victoria, so I don't really give a shit.
We're allowed.
We're allowed to. What was it? Obviously, it's hard to sort of summarise your entire time, but like, what was it like to represent Victoria and going through that?
Yeah, well, it was amazing. Like, it's I still remember it. So I was in the squad as a kid, 18, finished year 12 as that year. And just being in the squad and being around these guys was awesome. David Hooks was the coach. Yeah. My first game was a bit controversial because Victoria got bowled out for 60. We played a game in Ballarat. We got bowled out for 60 on what I wasn't there, but it was supposedly a flat wicket. We bowled out for 60, and Hooksy got a bit upset and sort of said, righto, we're at Kerford Road Beach, St Kilda Beach, 6 a.m.
AFL players.
Yeah,
AFL
exactly.
Players get tormented by this.
Exactly. And we just got to stand in the water for half an hour and go home. But it was the Allan Border Medal, and the great Darren Berry drank a little bit and missed the session. So Hooksy had said in the press that if anyone missed the session, they're out. And Chuck was our senior player. He was our keeper. He was a leader. He wasn't captain. Whitey was captain, but Chuck was Chuck. Yeah. And, Hooksy suspended him from a one-day and a Shield game. Yeah. And I got called in for the one day. I went to Brisbane under lights at the Gabba as an 18-year-old. Playing against Queensland was one of the scariest things of all time. But
do you remember who you faced first?
Yeah. So we won the game. We bowled first, so I got to keep first, which was great.
Yeah.
I dropped a full-length diving one-handed down leg side off Stuart Law. Yeah. And I remember going, I almost had that. Like, flicked the gloves. And Stewie Law goes, well, lucky Chuck's not here. Something like that. It was like, lucky Chuck's not here. Beep, beep, beep. Yeah, and Queensland. I walked out to bat. It was like 2 overs to go. We needed 3 to win. So we were going to win the game. We were 5 down. I batted at 7. Yeah. And Caswitz was bowling. And at this stage, I'd never played under lights. And the first time you bat under lights, the colours are all different. Like, everything is different. So I'd never played in a game under lights. And next thing you know, I got Jimmy Marr, Wade Seckham and Stuart Law all walked up to me and go, we don't care if we win. We know we've lost the game, but we're going to hurt you so bad. And I'm walking out going, this is ridiculous. Like, he is going to hit you straight between the eyes. I'm thinking, fair enough too. Yeah. So first ball, I've rocked back thinking, no, this is going to hit me in between the eyes, and he's just double bluff, straight hard Yorker, and I've jammed down inside edged it to square leg and took off for a single. So
Perfect.
got off the mark. It was perfect and survived. Dave Hussey. So Dave Hussey and I both debuted for Victoria that game.
wow.
And a guy by the name of Brendan Joslin, who's a really good club cricketer and played a few games for Victoria. Dave Hussey obviously became Dave Hussey.
Yeah.
But he debuted and then he hit the winning runs. I think he got 50 not out. Was pretty happy to get off that get off the ground that day alive. Pretty intimidating by these guys, but Queensland were always a bit like that. But yeah, it meant a lot. Shane Warne, the next year was when I played Shield cricket, and Warney was coming back from his
The diuretic.
incident.
Mum's lunchbox.
Exactly. He was just playing Test cricket, so the one day as Ron, so he was playing. So when I debuted, he actually gave me my hat, which was
that's sick.
awesome.
That's incredible.
So, presented by Warney was awesome. I'm pretty sure he had to go figure out my name before it, but no, that's a joke. Warney was always good.
Congrats, Alan.
Yeah, exactly. It was something like that. Exactly. Yeah, but that was pretty cool. Play with him and to keep to him was one of, looking back on it now, although I'm still playing club cricket, looking back on my professional career, wicket keeping to Warney for probably 15 Shield games, I reckon I probably played with him.
Yeah.
It was one of the most incredible things.
That's obviously hard to top.
Hard to top. And I played with a lot of good players, but obviously he's the king.
He's the king,
so
yeah.
It was
Any stumpings?
We got quite a few, and it was
silly question.
Yeah, but it was the interesting thing was because Darren Berry and him were such good mates.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, in every room across the country, you've got your different spot, the spot that you sit in the rooms when you go to the Gabba, when you go to the Wacker. Everyone's got their certain spot.
Yeah.
So Chuck and Warney were always next to each other. So when I took Chuck's spot, wherever I went and wherever I travelled, I was sitting next to Warney. And that was awesome. And you saw what he did. He obviously smokes a pack a day. And
would have been some interesting calls on the phone.
100%. There was a lot of phone calls. There was one day I got out from a Shield game and I came in just ready to throw my bat because I played a bad shot. And Warney's PA was sitting in my seat with a printer and her laptop out. They were running their foundation from inside, from underneath the MCG in the change rooms. I was like, this is just bizarre. MCG is obviously a smoke-free zone, but it didn't matter to Warney. Warney was
he's above those rules.
100%. So it was awesome, like to play with him and to watch him go. But we always called him. We always wanted Aussie Warne because we always got Victorian Warne because people know Aussie Warne as a very good slips catcher, very good. Whereas when he came and played for Victoria, as a young wicketkeeper with Warney sitting at first slip because he didn't want to go to second, he went at first, and sitting next to you, you're a bit nervous about jumping in front of him. And Nick, you sort of hesitate. And there was a few times I sort of went to go but didn't go, and he would shell him all the time. He just kept dropping catches. So the coaches came up to me and said, "Look, I don't care who's standing next to you. You've got to go because he can't catch him." So it was quite funny. Every time you watch a test match, he would just swallow him in the test match. But playing for Victoria, he couldn't catch one. But it was awesome. I've been quite lucky. Someone like Cameron White was the captain when I was at Victoria, and his cricket brain is unbelievable. As good as you'll see. But you got to remember, because Warney had him as well. Warney came back and helped Whitey as a young captain, and Shane Warne would have been an unbelievable captain of Australia. Yeah. The way you can hear it in his commentary and the way he thinks about the game, it's you could have 15 runs to play with, and they've got 7 wickets in hand. He's still trying to win the game. He's as ultra competitive as anyone, and that's probably he bowled really good leg spin, and that's what was very good. But his biggest asset was how competitive and how aggressive he was in his mind. Unbelievable cricket head. Just his off-field incidents may have cost him the Australian captaincy.
The photo of him with his lips wrapped around the hot glass is lives like rent-free in my head. It's all I can think about when Shane Warne comes up.
I roomed with him a couple of times interstate, and their stories I can't tell on this podcast.
I can imagine.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
No, I can imagine. We sort of touched on before how you think about players sort of being, rushed in at an early stage. I'm not sure if you remember this, but there was an article in the Herald Sun early into your career, and it was a future Ashes team. and you were actually the keeper.
Yeah.
Now that was obviously very early into your career.
I'm pretty sure Mum's framed it. It's probably still at home somewhere.
So you know the article I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah.
I mean, talk about what would have been going through your head at that point. Like, is that something that's hard to, playing in state cricket at such a young age? Is it hard for you to not look over the fence and go like?
Yeah, a little bit. That article was written even before I'd played a state game.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I hadn't even played for Victoria. I was under 19s. Yeah, it was massive praise, and it got a bit of attention, actually. Yeah. And it still is, obviously. Yeah, you still catch it.
With the Warne picture.
100%. But it was interesting, and I think wicketkeeping's such a hard thing because it's a stupid profession because you've got 7 jobs in the country, right? You've got the Australian job, and back then it was just 6 state jobs. So just playing first class cricket, you're 1 in 6 chance of being the next guy. And yeah, I think as a junior, I was I think my wicket keeping was good enough to play Test cricket. It was for mine. It was I just probably didn't nail my batting between 18 and 21 at Shield cricket, or 22. And that sort of left the door open, and Matthew Wade came to Victoria, and we duked it out for a few years, and he ended up, I took off to New South, he ended up getting the full gig at Victoria and became the Test keeper. So I feel that it was, look, it's disappointing. My cricket was just same as Painey. I went through what Painey did and Ferg did. We all went through the academies and the under-19s. The idea was to play for Australia. Yeah. Mine didn't work out for me, but it's it's just how it rolls. Do you think about it? Probably not. I was probably a bit too young and naive. I didn't think I was good enough at such a young age. Yeah. I became a much better cricketer in my mid-20s. Yeah. And if I had been playing Shield cricket in my mid-20s, not my early 20s and teenage years, things would have been a bit different. And that's partially the reason why I feel strongly about how I was pushed. I was pushed in the Victorian team before I think I'd made one club 100 before I'd played for Victoria. I
was going to say, you talked about your keeping at that point. That there's no argument that you were probably the best, pure keeper in the country. But getting those batting reps at a young age, is not doesn't happen easy.
Yeah, it doesn't. And look, I think so. I think pure keeping wise, I think I can say this. It's not arrogant after you've finished because it's a. But yeah, keeping wise, I think I had them covered. But for me, I was probably young and stupid and didn't look after my numbers. We'd be 5 for 480 and we're declaring at the end of the next over, and I'm the guy that was hitting it down long on's throat trying to get an extra couple of runs rather than being smart, taking the not out, looking after yourself a bit. Yeah. It was probably everything was for the team, for the win. Yeah. Let's go. Whatever happens. Whereas now I think looking back on it, and now that I'm sort of mentoring young players, I'm not saying don't try and score. I'm saying that there is some times where you need to look after yourself.
Use your head a little bit more,
Yeah, don't get caught on the long on boundary, the last ball of a Shield game when you're already 700 runs in front of Tassie, who are no good. And you just, and then next thing you know, you get a duck and all of a sudden you're averaging 15, you're under the pump.
And that would be hard. Especially when you see such a big score. Yeah. You've waited for, 2 days and you come in and you make a blob.
100%. And look, I was lucky. Like the era that I played Victorian cricket, I ended up playing 60 or 70 one days for Victoria and I think we played in 3 or 4 finals in that time. Like probably we had a couple of years where we were playing every T20 final, all the one day finals and Shield finals, and it was we had an amazing team. And you look at you had Hussey and White, McDonald and Hodge. You had Harwood, Lewis, Dirt Nanners. You had young Peter Siddle, young John Hastings. Yeah. All the
a lot of guys brothers, have gone on to play for Australia.
All these guys. And that squad that David Hooks started and Greg Shippard with under Whitey's captaincy, winning 5 or 6 Shields in that time and having pretty much all those players play for Australia was an amazing part of Victorian cricket. Yeah. Growing up, I'm a bit older than you, but growing up, when I was growing up, Victorian cricket was useless.
Yeah.
Like, we were horrible in the 90s. Like, when Dino and Merv were there was turmoil in the ranks and it was no good. And it wasn't until Hooks and Shippard took over Victorian cricket and they went with a young captain in Whitey that we've had 20 years of success now. That, like, back in the growing up, the only players that played for Australia were Dino, Warne and Merv.
Yeah.
Now we have 4 or 5 guys every year.
Yeah.
Like, and it's pretty impressive and it's pretty special what Victorian cricket's done over the last 20 years. But it was in that group that everyone, and it's funny, we didn't all get along. Like, not everybody got along. It was one of the best teams I've ever played in, but there was a lot of angst amongst guys. There was a lot of ego.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you got. I mean, Darren Pattinson didn't play for Australia. Played for England.
Played for England. 100%.
So, like, you got when you got like four blokes who could take the new rock.
Yep.
Only 2 guys can get it. Like,
100%. That Victorian squad that I was playing, like, you'd have Greg Shippard would stand at the end of the nets and he'd stand there and pick his team off what he saw in the nets. It was horrendous because
I'd never make. Actually, maybe that might actually help me.
This was the worst thing ever. You'd go into bat and you've got 6 guys trying out for the next game because they all think they're a sniff and they're bowling so fast. This was before front foot no ball free hits. Like, mate, they were bowling.
They're a metre and a half over.
Like, we would be at the MCG and they would line up. Like, they would paint the lines for our training session.
Yeah.
And the line would be perfect at the end of the session and there'd be a hole a metre in front of it. These boys were
on
bowling.
A good length, yeah.
And these guys were so fast. Like, Dirk Nanners was so fast.
It's scary fast.
James Pattinson was so fast. Like, Peter Siddle, young Peter Siddle was so fast. Like, and they were good. And they would bump you and they'd try and kill you in the nets.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember I had a net session at Victoria the day before a game, and you have a net day before a game, you just want to hit.
Yeah, you just want to feel
good, right? You want a couple of half volleys away. And Shane Harwood, who was he was an angry man. He was an angry man, an amazing bowler. Played for Australia. He deserved to because he was so good, but he was scary.
Yeah.
And he bowled me a bouncer that almost killed me. And then he stopped the net and they brought him in together. They had a bit of a huddle and had a chat. And the next 15 balls I got were bouncers. And it was Clint Mackay, James Pattinson, Peter Siddle, Dirk Nanners, and Shane Harwood. The scariest 20 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
I had enough by the end of it. I was trying to slog by the end. I was trying to just survive. Ball hit the back net, dropped in front of me, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not throwing the ball back.
Yeah.
Ball sitting at my feet. Harwood's like, give me the ball back. I'm like,
shit.
nah, mate, nah. So I'm sitting there just ignoring him. So he walks down in a bit of a huff. My eyes are spinning. I'm just a young punk at this age, probably 21. And then my idea was he was going to come down to pick up the ball and I was going to knock it away. Problem is, he's picked the ball up and I've mistimed my shot and I've smashed him in the hand. So he's grabbed me by the throat, pushed me into the net. We've had an all-in in the middle of the MCG nets. I got 15 blokes running at me. Like, Shane Harwood is a Ballarat boy with tattoos everywhere.
He's a mean dude.
And he had me by the throat. My helmet was all over and he was squeezing. It wasn't until the boys... but it was competitive. And that's the sort of environment that Victorian side had. It was competitive. Like, someone wouldn't put in enough for their dinner the night before at the team dinner, so they'd all bounce the hell out of him the next day in the nets or something like this. So, he ordered 3 wines and the oysters for entree, but only gave 50 at the end. Yeah, we're bouncing him. But it was an interesting time, but it's where I learnt all my cricket and how to play, and it's so funny that the further I went on and around with my cricket, almost every single thing. What I'm telling the St Kilda boys now, all comes back to lessons learned in that 5 or 6 year period with under Greg Shippard and Cameron White. And then
at such a young age too.
It was just all impressionable. Brad Hodge was my favourite cricketer of all time and he was just unbelievable to watch. And all of those lessons were my cricket lessons have come from that sort of 5 year period, which was competitive and hard and scary and just looking back on it, it was a great time.
I've heard a Brad Hodge story, and I'm not sure if I'm actually allowed to say it, but I'm going to check after if I've got permission to say it. But so apparently in a Premier Cricket game, he called out for a change of bat, and the person who brought the bat out said, "What's wrong with the bat?" And he goes, "Oh, nothing. This bat's just too good for these blokes." And made sure everyone could hear.
That would be. I've never heard that story, but I could guarantee that it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was, he's a very funny guy, amazing cricketer. Like his height, because he was so short, most guys would be on the front foot and he would just cut. And he would cut everything, and then they'd have to overpitch, and as soon as they overpitched, he was just all over it. He was unbelievable. He took the piss out of cricket.
Literally took the piss out of cricket.
Yeah. Ricky Ponting, your mate Ricky Ponting, he took the piss out of cricket, but the only other... Warne, Ponting and Brad Hodge are the guys that I played with that just went... And probably Simon Kadich. Simon Kadich had a year, he got 1,400 runs in a Shield year. And between those four guys, I've never seen cricket be so easy. But, Hodge would... And I don't think he loved playing... Yeah. He loved Melbourne Cricket Club, no doubt, but I don't think he enjoyed going back and playing club cricket. No. But, that story would be proper Hodgie, I reckon.
Yeah. Let's talk about from a wicket-keeping point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you idolise and model your game after? And, I know you fell into keeping, but why did you sort of stick with it?
Well, as I said, the way I started was I was playing age group above and just was bored fielding, to be honest. And as I said, I was a horrible bowler. So I was just going to field. So I was like, you know what, I'll have a crack. Dad was a wicket keeper, and Dad had a very big influence on both my brother and I to wicket keep, just because that's what he knew. I think it's like anything, he knew how to keep. So Dad was very sort of analytical and we did a lot of watching of cricket growing up, and Ian Healy growing up was amazing. But Darren Berry was the Victorian keeper, and even as a youngster, I was a cricket nuffy myself that would love watching Victorian cricket, and he was such a gun keeper, Chuck. So we'd just watch him. Adam Gilchrist came on the scene when I was sort of in my teens, and it was like, wow, this guy's amazing. I want to bat like this guy now. And
you start you change the grip. And you're basically not even holding on to it. You're like, no, do it for power.
Yeah, held the bat right up the top. And but no, look, wicket keeping's always sort of been a love of mine, and I've enjoyed it, and I still do. I still love watching wicket keepers and looking at them. But
do you still keep now for St Kilda?
No, we've got young Paddy Rowe who's in the state squad at the moment. So more just helping those guys. I think if I was still keeping, I probably would have quit 3 or 4 years ago. But so I just sort of stand in the field now. But I still work a lot with them. I work with Rowe and Nicole Fulton, who's the women's keeper for the Vics, and she's very good actually. But it's I don't know. I just sort of got into it. Have loved it. It's just a part of the game that I really think is a bit ignored. And probably the Adam Gilchrist factor a little bit. It's like people...
Say so. Because everyone now wants that batsman keeper, and they try and turn batsmen into keepers.
Keeper has to bat in the top 6 now. And that's why it's... And I was a bit worried there for a while. I think someone like Alex Carey, who really is a very good keeper, and he works on his keeping extremely hard. I was worried for a few years there that we were going to go down the route of a keeper just worrying about their average and not worrying about their wicket keeping. But Alex Carey and Tim Payne, both very good wicket keepers. I think sort of that next generation of keeper, I like Pearson from Queensland. I think he's pretty
Pearson,
good. And then Felipe and the kid from WA as well is. WA have got some really good young keepers out there, so it's not as bad. A couple of years ago, I was starting to get worried. I was like, oh, there's no keeping around. But, I still watch it closely, and I think the Vics, it's still up in the air from Gotch to Harper to Rowe to the next. I don't know who they're going to go with. I don't think anyone's sort of grabbed that spot at the moment, but... it's interesting to sort of see what happens there.
Yeah. You ultimately left Victoria for more opportunities. You went to New South Wales and South Australia. Mm-hmm. How hard was that decision for you?
Yeah, that was tough. That was a really hard decision because I'd been offered a contract, then I'd been offered an extension on that contract to stay at Victoria, because at the time I was keeping in one day and T20 cricket. Wadey was keeping in 4-day cricket. and we were both playing as batters in the other form. So I was playing Shield cricket as a bat.
Yeah.
He was playing one-day cricket as a bat. So we were both in the same team. So it was, but at that stage we were sort of early 20s. Both wanted to play for Australia. Both wanted the same thing. And yeah, it just got to a point where it was like, well, one of us had to leave. I know that Wadey was thinking about going back to Tassie, but then they sort of offered him pretty much the role. So then I was like, well, I'm not going to stay here and play second fiddle. So I left the contract on the table and went to Sydney with nothing.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, went up there, and at the time, my brother James was a rookie contracted keeper at New South Wales.
Okay.
Peter Neville had just left Victoria the year before, and he was up there on a rookie contract. And Daniel Smith was keeping. Brad Haddon was keeping for Australia at that stage. So it was like the New South Wales spot was
Sort of
up
open.
for grabs. Yeah. So I was probably a bit young and naive and didn't really understand the politics of cricket. And now knowing what I know, probably wouldn't have gone because it was New South Wales. It was pretty much said to me down the line that no Victorian would wicket keep for New South Wales. Which was tough because I think if we look at footy, it doesn't matter where you come from. If you get drafted or you go somewhere, whereas cricket, we still have this affinity for homegrown players for some reason. And I think hearing that comment in New South Wales cricket that no Victorian will keep for New South Wales was tough, especially seems Peter Neville is now captain of New South Wales, who's a Victorian. But yeah, so then I got I packed the bags up, went to Adelaide, got an opportunity with the Adelaide Strikers, which was great. Was able to play Shield cricket there, and we won the one-day comp, which was
I'm
amazing.
going to ask you about in a second.
We'll get to that one. That's a good story, but then sort of. And I understood when I got delisted from South Australia because they did want to go back and get some youngsters in, and Alex Carey is a really good player, and Tim Ludeman was there, another Victorian wicketkeeper
guy,
I don't begrudge what I did because I think all the time I was chasing the next thing. Could I have been a bit more patient? Yeah, possibly, but at the same time, at that period of time, at that very moment when you had to make the decision I made, I think, was the right one. Looking back is always easy to say.
Absolutely.
Maybe you should have stayed. But if I stayed, who knows? I probably would have played out a 3-year contract behind Wadey and never played a game. I don't know.
How is that relationship?
With Wadey?
With, I guess, I'm not specifically, but, when you're competing for the one spot,
there's no doubt it's tough. And both Matt and myself are competitive beasts. To be honest, we didn't really train together. We sort of had our own different ways of doing it. I trained a lot more on my keeping. He didn't train as much on his keeping. He was hitting balls a bit more. It was tough. Even playing games, I was playing Shield cricket as a batter and he was keeping. I can't say that I was overly happy when he was making runs, and I'm sure he wasn't happy when I was making runs. And it's awkward.
It's natural. It's
a natural thing, yeah. But it's an awkward thing when you're trying to buy into a program and you're trying to win games of cricket for Victoria. It was something I really struggled with. How do I deal with this? I was probably hurting my cricket by watching his scores. I would be on my cricket every night after. How'd he go? What did he make? What's the score? It was the only person I was watching, and it probably was to the detriment of my game. If I could go back in time and tell myself something, it would just be concentrate on your own stuff because I just wasted a lot of energy worrying about that sort of shit. To be honest, it's that was a tough one. But look, Wade is an exceptional cricketer, and he's still Test cricketer, and he's doing really well. It was tough because I wanted his spot, he wanted my spot. It's sometimes a part of professional cricket that it was pretty clear that only one of us could survive at Victorian cricket, and Victorian cricket at the time were hedging their bets. They were like, we don't really know, and I probably made that decision easier for him by picking up and taking off and going to New South. So, don't know.
Yeah.
Was it a mistake? Probably, but in saying that, things have worked out fine. I'm happy with my career, and and life in general. So it's
Yeah,
good.
and there's, you can make a million examples.
100%.
If Max Klinger doesn't leave,
Yeah.
Does he probably doesn't go on to get that
Exactly.
the added opportunity. So I mean,
100%. I think there's a lot of players that have stayed and played, have stayed at their state and not got the opportunity, and then fallen off the back of the wave and missed it. Michael Klinger is a perfect example. When he was fighting with Dave Hussey, Graham Rummins in the middle order for Victoria, and couldn't really grab a game. He was only playing when Cameron White and David Hussey would go and play one-day cricket for Australia. Then Maxie would get a game. Wasn't until he went to South Australia and was given, hey, this is your spot, relax into it, and go and be a Jet. And he was. And he's amazing. And then for him to play, he was the fittest guy you've ever seen, so he was always going to be able to play for as long as he wanted.
Yeah.
But then to do it for so long in South Australia, then go to WA and do it, it's pretty special. He's another good mate of mine who's had a really special career. I just wish he played 15 test matches because he deserved that. And that's the bit that hurts me with these guys that put their life and soul into the game and then get overlooked for the 18-year-old kid who might be okay, or the 21-year-old kid who's averaging 30 when Klinger had averaged 50 for 8 years in a row and wasn't given the game because he didn't have, and I don't know if this is a Chappell thing. Chappell does it. He always talks about getting these kids in young, and it's like, well, there's guys out there who deserve to be picked on weight of runs, the way that they've contributed. They deserve 15 test matches.
We don't have a ton of blokes knocking the door down.
100%.
Yeah.
Steve Smith still plays. Steve Smith at 21 is still, he's good enough. Like, generational players will pop their head up from time to time.
Yeah.
My point is that you need those middle-ranked players to make those good players guns. Like, it's no good.
We spoke about laying platforms. Like, it doesn't sort of, you can't lay the platform for a Marnus or a Steve Smith. If we sort of rush Bukowski and he's
Marnus is good. There's no doubt Marnus is good because Usman Khawaja has been holding his hand from a young age. Like that, there's like Steve Smith, David Warner, Phil Hughes, Usman Khawaja were all guns because they had Brad Haddon and Simon Kadich telling them how to do it.
Yeah.
Like Aaron Finch and Glenn Maxwell have learnt from Hodge, Hussey and White. Like these guys, that they get good by learning off these guys. When you start cutting those senior players out just to throw in another youngster, you actually, this is where I think Australian cricket's hurt itself, because we've cut those middle players out who might not. In cricket, we don't do it well. In footy, we do it great. In footy, they say, you know what, this guy's not in our next premiership team, but he's great around the club. He's great around, like Mark Murphy at Carlton. He's not in our premiership team, but he's great around the boys. He's going to teach those young next group how to get, let's say, 8th spot. But
I was going to say, man, you could pick anyone on the list, I reckon.
And that's it. But it's those guys that in cricket we don't keep those guys around. Like Chappell was relentless on saying Andrew McDonald should be out of Shield cricket, like shouldn't be playing. But someone like Andrew McDonald was the reason that Clint Mackay was a gun, that John Hastings was a gun. Like that, those guys around. I think that gets lost on how those players actually help the next generation.
Yeah,
not getting games into young kids, playing with young kids. We're sometimes we look at it. I look at it and I go, well, this is Shield cricket's becoming an under 25 thing.
Yeah,
it should be you shouldn't be playing Shield cricket until you we should have more 30-year-old cricketers.
Yeah,
playing Shield cricket, but we don't.
Yeah,
because they all get pushed on and say, whereas, as you see, Callum Ferguson, Sean Marsh, these guys get pushed out.
Yeah.
Michael Klinger pushed out.
I'm pretty sure Callum Ferguson doesn't have a contract for BBL,
he's
and he had a great year.
And that's it. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Whereas the Indians do it well. The English do it really well.
Yeah.
Sure, the English have more teams, but those senior players stick around and play, and they teach the young kids how to play.
Yeah.
'Cause you think back to all the cricket you've played, you don't learn from your peer. You learn from the the senior player.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Or the gun on the other team.
Yeah.
I think I learned much more about cricket watching Simon Kadich make runs against us to go, this guy looks ugly and hasn't hit the middle of the bat, but how's he on 70?
Yeah.
Like you look up and he's on 70 and has he hit a 4? He hit inside edge one and he whacked a couple of cut shots, but he's on 70. Like Justin Langer, the same. Like they were never, I never looked at Langer and Kadich and like Phil Hughes as like gloriously beautiful players. But they just made runs. Yeah. And like, there's something about that, and there's something I think we've lost a lot of those type of players. Darren Lehmans of the world. Like,
we've certainly lost Darren Lehmans.
Yeah.
There is very hard to find a Darren Lehman these days.
Yeah.
One of my like first memories of like going to watch cricket was that the World 11 at Etihad. And the first thing I can remember is watching Shoaib Akhtar. Like his run up is almost
scary.
Yeah, almost at the nets, where the nets were, which I got a really good story about that. And Simon Kadich is facing, and Shoaib Akhtar, like I've seen Brett Lee bowl, seen Shoaib Akhtar, fuck me swinging. That is so quick, and you almost can't see it.
Yeah.
But the way Simon Kadich just getting in behind it, almost like it was nothing, almost made me sick as a kid. And that was where I was like, I don't really think I want to play cricket anymore.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. Cricket's a good game, but cricket's a horrible game when the guy at the other end can hurt you.
Yeah.
When he can seriously put you in hospital or and those guys and the best fast bowlers have something loose with their mentality that
100%. They're not
they
right.
want to hit you.
Yeah.
And they want to hurt you. And Akhtar was one of them.
James Pattinson.
James Pattinson's got a screw loose. I love Jimmy, like I do, but he's got that competitive streak that he's just, I don't care, I'm going to win.
Yeah,
and that's an awesome streak to have as a professional cricketer. But these guys, same thing with the batters though. The batters have got it. Simon Kadich, you wouldn't want to cross Simon Kadich.
Michael Clark found out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pin him up against the wall. Like Michael Clark wouldn't stand a chance, but Kadich and Lehman. See someone like a Jimmy Marr for Queensland.
Yeah, Jimmy Marr.
Damien Martin. All these guys like Steve Waugh, like they just were so competitive, and that it takes courage and a lot of skill to stand in behind 160 k's an hour. Like it's crazy.
It is
crazy.
But I sort of said I don't want to forget this because it is a very funny story. Former guest of the show, a man who actually said, when I'd said that you were coming on, he goes, "Oh, finally I'm not the best cricketer on the show." Sean Sturrock was once a Melbourne Renegades net bowler.
Yeah.
And where those nets are situated at Etihad Stadium is a very weird spot. And the Renegades had Shahid Afridi, a bit of boom boom. And I think Sean thought he would throw one up and throw up a nice little yum yum, and Shahid sent it to the other end of the ground, and he's the longest walk ever, just going to pick up the white pill from the
gutter on the other
side. So he's pretty much just hit a full length six out of the nets. He goes, it was a very humbling experience, but. Gee whiz, I've seen Shoaib Akhtar hit the roof.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Shahid Afridi hit the roof with 100%. One.
We played Afridi used to hit the ball mile. We were lucky enough to play in the first Big Bash when Chris Gale was playing for Sydney Thunder.
Yeah.
There's a funny story. So he got 100 against us strikers, and at the time I think he hit 12 sixes or something, and it was a record.
Yeah.
And it was the day before, it might have been Christmas Eve game or the 23rd. So it was like, okay, guys, play the game and you fly back to home, have a couple of days for Christmas, and then back in as a group for the next game. So we played, and I was on the plane. Going home, and the Sky Sports had the Chris Gale hits the world record 12 sixes in an innings to get 100 for, and we're playing at ANZ Stadium there in Sydney.
Yeah.
Stadium Australia, whatever.
Down the ground,
and
those are short.
It was that they've swung the pitch around now, so it's different, but back then straight was tiny.
Yeah.
And Chris Gale, right? He hits 140-metre sixes.
Yeah, they're going on the third deck anyway.
And even when we were there, we're like, this is too small. This is ridiculous. He's just going to hit. And so we're throwing it up, and they cut the highlight package together, and all it was, all you could hear was me and the stump mic going, catch it, catch it, catch it. It was 12 times in a row. Chris Gale hits the ball 150 metres. He probably hits it 75 metres over the boundary, and I'm here saying, catch it.
You got catch. Oh.
Yeah, and it was like 12 in a row. Catch it, catch it, catch it, catch it, catch it. Like all this. And there was a guy sitting two seats across from me, and he leant to the guy who's next to me and goes, and I wasn't kidded up. The guy didn't know who I was, and we were all watching. It was the Sky Sports thing at the start. And he goes, you see this wicketkeeper for Adelaide thinking that this bloke's not going to clear the 45-metre boundary? Here I am going, catch it, catch it.
And you're like, yeah, what a wanker.
As a wicketkeeper, the stump mic was the worst. My little high-pitched voice. And it was horrible.
I can relate to the catch it. I made a comeback to cricket this year, and I hadn't played cricket in like 9 years. Got called up last game to play twos cricket, which is the highest I've ever played at the club. And they gave me an over. Yep. And like it was a
thanks for coming sort of over. Yep.
Pretty paltry over. And after I'd already made a first baller. No. Yeah. It was last over. Yeah. I was just trying to do the team thing. But first ball I've bowled the half track of all half trackers, and it's been blokes rocked back because obviously had a little bit of time to get to it. And he smashed it, and my brother filmed it. And all you can hear me is yell, catch! And then my brother just starts laughing, and you see the umpire turn around, and just the quickest boundary you've ever seen. No one's near it. It's hard sometimes.
It is. I had a bad habit. It ended up being a habit that I was actually had to stop saying, because as soon as, and I was saying catch it before the batter had even hit it sometimes, because I could see in my peripheral, I could see he's hitting it in the air. It's like, oh, catch. And it was just becoming annoying. Even watching the replays back and doing the homework, I was having to mute the TV because I was just sick of hearing myself say, catch it, catch it. Like, it just doesn't, it was no good. So it was a bad tick that ended up in my game.
Yeah. No, everyone has the ticks. We touched on it before, but we skipped over it, that one-day final in 2011. So that I watched the end of that game.
The last over. I could watch the Gary Putland last over.
Yeah,
every day of the week.
I think there's a Facebook page. It's called like just like random Sheffield Shield names. And Gary Putland. Gary Putland. He is that page summed up. Man. Yeah. That game, you literally the scores ended on a tie, but because you finished on top, you won. Talk about the last over.
Yeah, well, it was. You're right. It was an incredible game. Like, we'd been belted all year in Shield cricket, South Australia, but we'd had a really good one-day year, and we ended up on top. So we were hosting the one-day final. We knew that if it was a tie, we were champions. And going into the last over, we had Gary Putland, big left armour from South Australia, injury prone. Yeah. Poor kid, potentially could have played one-day cricket for Australia if he wasn't injury-prone, I would have thought.
He was on the list for what felt like 47 years.
Yeah, just kept getting injured, and it was horrible for him. But from a teammate perspective, he was the guy that you knew could deliver and could hit the hole and play defensive cricket. So they needed 5 to win, 4 to tie, 5 to win at the time.
Which in these days is...
Yeah. In any game of cricket with 6 wickets in hand, I think. There's maybe 7.
Yeah, I think they were 4 down.
Yeah, but at the time, George Bailey was on 101 and Ricky Ponting was on 85.
Oh, shit. I didn't actually realise Ricky Ponting.
So Ponting was in. Ponting started on strike.
Sorry, Rick.
First ball, I know. First ball, runs down the wicket, smacks it straight to long off. 1 run. All right, no worries. George Bailey on strike. They need now 4 to win off 5 balls. Yeah. Shuffles across, tries to whack it over mid-wicket, gets hit on the full in front of the stumps. Umpire gives it not out. Now, this year was the year that we couldn't refer it, but what could happen is the third umpire could radio down and say,
really?
"Hey,
I want to
have a look at this. Don't bowl the next ball." So we all sort of tried to stall as well. This is out.
Yeah.
Putland hit him dead in front.
Yeah.
Third umpire radios down to the umpire, gives Bailey out. unreal. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden they need 4 off 4 to win.
Yeah.
And the finisher, my mate James Faulkner, walks out.
Is that a self-proclaimed nickname?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I was never a massive fan, but I loved him this day. So 4 off 4, Faulkner comes in. First ball, Putland bowls a beautiful Yorker, jammed down. The ball jams down, bounces over my head, goes down to fine leg. They get 2.
Yeah.
We're thinking horrible shot, bounce over the keeper's head, like goes down to fine leg for 2. So I need 2 off. Where are we at? 2 off 4.
Yeah.
2 off 3. Sorry,
3,
2 off
yeah,
3.
yeah.
We get together, and I was like, and this is probably one of the best things I've done in state cricket. Was like, righto, I'm going to come up to the stumps because we can't get Ponting back on strike. Because as soon as Ponting's back on strike, the game's over.
It's over, yeah.
So I need 2 to win. So we bought the field up. We kept a couple out, but we really bought the field in. So I've come up to the stumps. Putland's nailed a beautiful Yorker again. Faulkner's nicked it. And as a keeper, when the ball hits you on the thumb, so the ball hit me on the thumb, and usually it would trickle a couple of metres away out to point, and they'd scamper through for a single.
Yeah.
This day, I still don't know how it's happened. He's nicked it onto my thumb, and the ball has stayed right with me next to my foot, dot ball.
Oh.
So now all of a sudden,
Those fat thumbs.
100%.
Yeah.
It was like 2 off 2. Now we're a chance.
Yeah.
I stayed up the stumps. Faulkner again. This was Putland missed his length here, bowled a full toss.
Oh, wow.
Faulkner's whacked it to short mid wicket to Daniel Harris.
Yeah.
Straight to him at short mid wicket.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, dot ball. They need
2 off the last.
They need 2 off the last to win. Yeah. Ricky Ponting, who we all love, punter.
Yeah.
Ponting's at non-strikers end. They need 2 runs. Ponting then takes his pads off.
Oh, that's right.
He takes his pads off. And we're saying, you're the captain of Australia. What are you doing?
Yeah.
He's taking his pads off. He's called 12th man out, taking his pads off so he can run faster.
Yeah.
Thinking, no worries. I'm going, okay, well, I'm going to go back because we knew that 1 run we win, 2 runs they win. And you could just tell that Faulkner was just all over the place. His eyes were spinning. He's munged 3 balls.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, it's just horrible.
Yeah.
Running in, Putland bowls a length ball that should have been hit for 6.
Yeah.
And he's just missed it.
Bit of a yum.
Come through to me. I've then run through. Ponting's run through for the bye. It's funny, Darren Berry was the coach of South Australia.
Yeah.
And Chuck asked me only a couple of years ago, actually, he's like, why didn't you run him out? And we would have won because I quite easily could have underarmed the ball and run Ponting out. But I just sort of ran up.
Took the ball and celebrated,
took the bails off. He got through, tie, win. Yeah. For me, it all stems back to Big Bash final. We'd won 3 Big Bash finals in a row for Victoria.
Yeah.
The 4th was at ANZ Stadium against New South Wales. Scores were tied last ball. I threw the ball at the stumps, missed, and we ended up losing. It was the first T20 final that Victoria lost just because they won on a bye on the last ball of the day.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do anything like that. I was like, 1 run, fine. If it comes through to me, it doesn't matter. We win.
We still got the
tie,
title.
win, title, don't care.
Yeah.
So didn't throw it. But what's happened is I've taken the stumps and the boys have all jumped on me, as you do, and the pack. And next thing, all I hear is Crossy, Crossy, Crossy. And all I can think of is Maxi Klinger standing at the non-strikers end.
Yeah.
Going, give me the ball, thinking that we were celebrating that we're going to run back for a second.
Oh, no.
So all of a sudden I've got 7 blokes on top of me. We're trying to take a stump. Yeah. And here's Maxi Klinger at the non-strikers end screaming at me and giving me the ball. I was like, I threw him the ball. No worries, keep hugging and kissing. So quite funny. A story as well with that one on the back end. So Ryobi Cup, I was when that was back on the Ryobi Cup.
Yeah. It's had about 97 names.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. It's I think I've played in most of them.
Yeah.
It's so the Ryobi Cup, we won it, had a massive night, Adelaide Oval. Great night. You win a premiership.
Yeah.
No matter what level of cricket it is, it's just a great night.
You have a couple of cordials and go home.
Woke up the next day, and I woke up and I was like, walked out of my bedroom and I was like, what's that? And pretty drunk after the win, took the cup home. I had the Ryobi Cup, not even sitting on the mantelpiece, was in the middle of my lounge room on its side, dripping vodka Red Bull out of it or something. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was just, I was getting phone calls. Like, have you got the cup? So I stole the cup and no one knew who the cup was. They had the press at the Adelaide Oval waiting to like celebrate the cup.
So clean her out.
Yeah, 100%, guys. I've got it. Yeah, I'll come back. So
That's incredible.
it was, pretty cool. I've got a couple of photos of the Roby cup in my lounge room. Stole it.
Just leaking vodka Red Bulls outside.
100%,
Like, no, I'll bring it down.
Yeah.
It's looking pretty good.
Clean it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was that was awesome, and yeah, Gary Putland was the hero. It was pretty cool.
No, it's incredible stuff. Obviously, that's an absolute wild game. Is there anything else that you can think of in your career, like maybe a moment like an inning like Ben Stokes in the Ashes, or just something completely you've never seen before?
I think to pinpoint, nothing that really. There's a heap of small things that happen. We won a game. We won a Shield game by about 4 or 5 runs in Adelaide where we shouldn't have won it.
Yeah.
I think the best, we talked about before, like just witnessing good cricket that no one else sees, and you see that a lot in Shield cricket. And
you play like the MCG.
The MCG with 4 blokes and the cleaner. Like they don't even open up 3/4 of the ground because it's like no point. But we played at Adelaide Oval one day, and I still remember it was Warne versus Lehman.
Yeah.
And day 4 they were chasing a lot, and it was just Warne versus Lehman. And then when it was Warnie's over bowling to Lehman, it was like we all just stood there, and it was no one said anything. It was just those two going at each other. And then over was called, and then we'd all get back in the game, and it's all right. Then becomes a game of cricket again.
Yeah.
Then Warnie got the ball. It was Warne versus Lehman, and we were just all. I think everyone in that game was just in awe.
Everything just stopped.
Day 4, Adelaide Oval, the ball spinning square. Darren Lehman. Like Warne bowling around the wicket to a left-hander, spinning into him like meters, and it was probably the best day of wicket keeping I've ever had. Like I kept well, but it was also amazing bowling to keep to. But like Warne spinning at 3 meters, but then Lehman shuffling back and cutting him against the spin on like
no
just
helmet
unbelievable.
On. No hat, just
everything you can imagine about Warne versus Lehman, and it was one of the best days of cricket. I often think back to that. And just sort of think that's like how good that was in cricket. But we had some times. Like we were lucky. We won, as I said, 3 Big Bash titles. The first 3 Big Bash titles were all pretty cool. And that game, the South Australian game, when we won the comp was awesome. But it's funny, you get to the end of your career and you don't actually remember a lot of the cricket, but you remember a lot of the time. The times with the boys and the celebrations and the...
Or Warnie's PA.
Warnie's PA, exactly, or a nightclub with Warnie, or... a lot of them come back to Warnie stories, actually. But
it's just, that's all you remember, just Warnie.
Whether you're playing club cricket when you're having a few beers after a win, or you're playing state cricket or test cricket, it's all ends up being the same thing.
It all tastes the same.
Yeah.
That's good.
100%, yeah. Winner's piss is winner's piss, and that's the good thing about it. But it's I think I remember more of that sort of stuff and the players than actually individual moments in games. I can't remember many moments in games because I think you're so entrenched in what's going on that you don't actually think about it as a holistic thing. You're just thinking about what you need to do and to get the win.
That's it.
It's interesting.
Yeah. No, look, outside of cricket, mate. You founded a creative and digital marketing agency called the Brand Bar.
Yep.
Talk about that whole process of that, and sort of the coming into. I know you're still playing.
Yeah.
You're still playing cricket with St Kilda, but talk about that sort of coming out of the the first class cricket into the next sort of part of your life.
Yeah, I think it was hard. Like it's a difficult thing. I think as a cricketer, you have this bit of identity crisis a little bit. It was like, well, hey, I've been at the cricket academy. As I said earlier, like I was built to play cricket for Australia, like in all the academies and all the under 19s.
That's all you knew,
and that's what you were dedicated to, and it was what you were trying to do. At the same time, I had my family was my old man's a lawyer. My family come from a family of teachers as well, so like education was obviously a big part of us growing up. That hey, cricket's not going to last forever, but it's that whole how do you exit out of professional cricket when you still want to be in cricket?
Yeah, and you still feel like you can be.
And you can be in it, and it's how do you do that whilst concurrently trying to build a career. So I was lucky enough to get into healthcare sales and into health and just into sales. And it was interesting. I think when I first got into business, I was very much thinking, okay, I've got to forget every single thing that I learned in cricket, and I just need to be a sponge and learn this business world and learn how to do it in this space. The more I do business and do sales, and as you said, we've got the marketing agency now, the more I learn that all the lessons that you learn through sport and all the lessons you learn in cricket, that they're echoed in business all the time, and they're echoed through.
Don't bowl short.
Yeah, don't bowl short and go and get it, or just how to deal with egos, or how to deal with under pressure, or how to deal with somebody being in your face, or how do you deal with like being under pressure for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
Things like this was, I think that sort of made my transition a little bit easier into the business world and into into my roles within it. But it's been good. Like I've still, as I said, still in cricket, so I'm still sort of mentoring these sort of younger guys and playing with them and trying to make sure they don't make the same mistakes I did, and make sure that they do have something outside of cricket, because I think, as I said, my time when I was probably at Victoria, it was Wadey and I trying to duke it out for the keeping spot. My life was engulfed with one thing and one thing only. It was to make runs and to beat Matthew Wade. And it was not good for my life. It wasn't good for my cricket.
Yeah. So you're saying your identity was just wrapped up in this is me, and that's all. And that's it.
And to be honest, I don't think I was a very nice person to be around at that time. I was grumpy all the time. I was angry if I'd get 80 and you'd be angry that it wasn't 180, or you'd get a duck and you'd think the world was going to end. There was just some perspective that just sort of was missed there. And I think now getting out of it and being in business and working through my professional career, I've matured a lot, thank God, because the early 20s me was a lot of cricket, nightclubs, and one focus of what you're trying to do, and it's just not healthy. And I see a lot of people sort of exiting cricket, exiting footy, exiting sport.
A lot of athletes
in general
have that same identity thing that they talk about.
Yeah, and it's really hard because you are dedicated for one thing and you put so much time and effort in. Like, you live at the gym, you live at the nets, you live at the game, you live at the ground. Like, you don't have weekends. Weekends don't exist because weekend is actually when you work.
That's your time.
And so there is a lot of lessons that are learnt from that and in that space when you get out of it. But it's just, I think that I was in an unhealthy position. I was fighting, I guess, mental demons myself of how to deal with it, and I probably didn't get enough help in that regard to how to be in the best frame of mind, or because everything was just so engulfing of what you were doing. But I still love it. It's funny. I think a lot of players probably at my age get burnt out and just leave the game, whereas I've been lucky enough to still sort of stick in the game and still enjoy the game. And I like the balance that I've got at the moment. I've got a job, we've got the business ticking along there in marketing and PR, which admittedly is run by my wife. She's the marketer. She's much better at marketing than I am. But it's been a really interesting segue into the business world. And it's funny, it comes full circle because a lot of sort of the clients that I have sort of come from cricket history. Like, our general manager of the business is an ex-coach of mine who was a mentor of mine, who's now within the business. It's funny how it all, when your single focus is cricket, when you actually can take a deep breath and realise there's a lot more to the world than playing the next Shield game, I think your life becomes a bit better.
Try being me and averaging 11, mate.
Yeah,
it's tough. That's just a pure batsman.
Yeah, it hurts, doesn't it? I think that's when I'll stop.
Yeah.
I keep telling my wife. I keep saying, look, when I start nicking them,
Yeah.
that's when I'll retire.
Yeah.
Gonna go out on top. But
Yeah, no, that's it. Look, mate, that was an incredible chat. Yeah, very, very funny man, and some great stories about some cricket legends, but also some really good insight into some of the mental side as well, which I think a lot of people will really appreciate and enjoy, like I have. So, thank you very much for coming on, mate, and all the best with the continued success at St Kilda and with the business.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate
Cheers.
it.